mic check, please.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ducks Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jennings.
I'm your host, Dr. Mike Brazier.
My name is John Gordon. I'll be your host.
And I'm your host, Katie Burke.
Welcome to the Ducks Unlimited podcast, the only podcast about all things waterfowl. From hunting insights to science-based discussions about ducks, geese, and issues affecting waterfowl and wetlands conservation in North America. We bring the resource to you, the DU Podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Ducks Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Chris Jennings. Joining me today in studio, which is awesome, is Jim Ronquest, the now new title. He is the Vice President of Development for Drake Waterfowl. Jim, welcome back to the show.
Man, thanks for having me, partner. It's fun to be back.
Yeah, and it's exciting to have you here in studio where, we can sit down and discuss. And recently, you just wrapped up the live cast for the B-Pop.
Yes, sir.
But, go ahead and we'll kick this off with the new position. Mm-hmm. I think, around the waterfowling industry, let's say. And I know you called me that morning to let me know, and I appreciate that. That was awesome when you accepted the position. But I think just letting everyone know, that now that you work with Drake Waterfowl, you're heavily involved with everything, especially with DU. It's a benefit for us. But what has changed for you now that you've moved from Rich-N-Tone to Drake Waterfowl?
A lot has, and it's all been good and very positive. John and Angie Stevens at R&T still dear friends of my wife and I, so there's no issues there. I try to nip that in the bud before people try to make something that's not there. That being said, it's an opportunity to kind of expand a little bit and work with other people. Not that I couldn't work with before, but you got a little bit more free reign to work with other brands or do other stuff that I didn't necessarily have before. Mm-hmm. And I enjoy that. I like making friends with everybody if I can. Yeah. And the opportunity to work a little bit closer with y'all at Ducks Unlimited. Hence, that's why I called you and several other industry folks that I worked with before I went public that, hey, here's what's coming down the road. And it's been unbelievable past 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. No, it's exciting. And I think I mentioned to you when we first talked about it, maybe a couple days later, it was probably exciting for you that, with Rich-N-Tone, you were always, it's very, that's waterfowl centric. Mm-hmm. It is. That's what they do. It literally, that's their tagline.
Build duck calls and goose calls.
Yeah.
And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And why, waterfowling is my passion. Mm-hmm. And a big part of my vocation, I'm also a hunter.
Yeah.
Spring turkey hunting is something that's near and dear to my heart. We eat more venison at my house than we do ground beef. Yeah. I enjoy to go hunting. So with everything at the Drake companies, it gives me an opportunity to kind of spread out and do a little bit more stuff. Now, that being said, I'm still a dyed-in-the-wool duck hunter, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Opportunity to go deer hunting, maybe go chase a bird dog. I grew up doing all that stuff. Now I got a little more opportunity to do it and get to call it work.
Yeah, that's right. You're fortunate enough, and we talked about before we came on air here, you were the host of RNTV for how long?
I think RNTV is airing its 17th or 18th season this year.
Yeah.
And it's probably confusing to some folks because you flip it on. I'm still a co-host for this broadcast season on RNTV from last year's hunts, yet I'm working for Drake moving forward there. So that's probably a little confusing. So maybe this podcast will help kind of alleviate some of that confusion.
Yeah, because I think along with that, people don't understand, you're recording almost a year in advance, or actually
6
a year.
Months,
Yeah. And so, what you recorded, if you didn't air that, RNTV wouldn't have you on the show or a show period.
Correct.
Yeah.
You had to do something or go back in the can. So, and a lot of folks, just to talk about linear television, I know y'all deal with it here at DUTV. The stuff that happens this duck season is for this following broadcast season. It's not quite a year out, but there's a shift point there for sure.
Yeah, that's basically how the magazine works too. We're the hunts that we go on in this fall won't show up in the magazine until next
year's
fall.
editorial.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
So with you not being involved with RNTV, and and I can only imagine that was probably a rigorous schedule throughout the duck season. You're traveling everywhere from Canada all the way to Louisiana trying to, film hunts. Now that you're with Drake, how does your fall look? Are you looking at it like, man, this is not going to be near as bad as far as travel, or, are you still going to be traveling quite a bit?
It'll probably be about the same, I guess. Going to Canada in September. Haven't been to Canada in a couple of years and never been that early. And we're going that early. One, it was an invite. A buddy of mine's an outfitter, had a group cancel and said, if y'all want to come on. And it gave me an opportunity with Drake to get some early content, get some creative assets that we can use for social, in September going into season. For the rest of the year, I'll hit a couple trips, maybe do an upland hunt in October. I'll be taking care of the Drake hunting camp this duck season, so that'll be pretty busy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not a commercial operation or anything like that. But, I want everything ready to go for the folks that are coming in and folks I need to spend time with. But it should give me a little more time to kind of relax and enjoy duck season for what it is.
Yeah, you get to chase some ducks on your own time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that even possible?
No.
You're always on someone's time there.
Yeah, it's always, but at the same time, I enjoy it. And it is on my time in a way. So if I'm in scouting or whatever, it's helping make whatever I got going a better deal.
Yeah.
No,
that's, I mean, it all makes sense. And, just like me, I mean, I don't hunt a ton on my own time either. I don't get
you're the same way.
Yeah.
You got to love it. I learned that a long time ago. If you don't truly love it, once you really get deep into this deal, it can burn you out.
Absolutely. And, you've done, like you said, TV for 17, 18 years. I did, I think, one episode of DUTV, and it was a snow goose hunt up in Missouri, like 2008, 2009. And I told the guy who was running the TV show at that time, I was like, I don't ever want to do this again. Like, you turn this into work. Like this, we shot a bunch of snow geese. We're up there with Tony when he was first getting going. Had a great hunt, but geese are still coming into the decoys. Why are we not shooting these geese? Like, what? They're like, we got to get this, these cutaways. And I'm like, oh man,
that was probably the difference between high-end production folks and us. And I'm going to say that's probably been some RNTV's success is that we went hunting first and then let the hunt tell the story. And we had to change a little bit, over time. You had to realize, okay, we're not duck hunting, we're making a TV show. That being said, give it time to air out. Let it happen what needs to happen. Don't try to push that stuff because it's got to be fun. It's got to be organic. And that's, Sean Stahl still does a great job of that, goose hunting with RNTV. And we just, let's have fun first and we'll figure out the rest later.
Yeah. How did that translate? Because you guided for.
Yeah. Oh, in the early days of video and RNTV, I was running Rich and Tone Guide Service. So we'd have paid customers going hunting with us, and we got cameras running. And that after a little bit, that some of the customers that we want to come enjoy duck hunt, not be involved in all this stuff. But very few people disliked it. Yeah. But it made it interesting because you never knew what you got.
Yeah, you never knew what was going to happen. So
who knows? Some of the early R&T videos, if anybody's ever listened to any of them, most all that of hunts with me, most of them, there was customers with us. And those customers turned into friends. And heck, I still stay in contact with them today. But it's pretty interesting to look back and think that was just a day hunting.
Random, just going out and doing it.
And the fun thing then, until we finally learned better, is used to be we wouldn't turn the cameras on, the ducks started flying. And then you learn, well, you got to tell a story. There's more to it than just had a little video experience beforehand. But that being said, that was kind of the fun part of all that.
No, that's cool. And I kind of mentioned it about you guiding forever. And I always found that to be, an interesting kind of aspect of your approach to everything, and you grew up a guide basically. And so I think that's a cool story. So if we can just touch on that a little bit, when did you start guiding? How did you get into guiding?
Oh boy.
I mean, that kind of sprang this one out on you.
Yeah.
It just popped into my head.
Well, that's kind of good. So long story here, we don't be forever, but I was fortunate to grow up in a hunting family. My dad hunted, and Mom hunted some. Mom would take me hunting before school and wait for me to come back, and then she'd take me to school. But Dad worked for a large construction company, and he enjoyed to hunt, and he liked to entertain folks, and I enjoyed going along, and I liked to call and set decoys and read magazines and think I was guides. So that got me interested in it. And then he did some other hunts with some outfitters, and they'd let me help be a part, or they say, hey, you go over here, I want you to call over here, and this and that. So I kind of enjoyed it and worked in the construction trades, helped guide in the wintertime with different people, and wound up running a guide service called Rich and Tone Guide Service. Started off with a partner, a young man named Jason Coleman, and I started it 93, 94, and that lasted till Jason and I went different directions, and that lasted till about 2007. And by then I was working full time for R&T Calls. John had taken over, and there was getting to be too much overlap, and you couldn't. You was robbing Peter to pay Paul, so wound up kind of letting the guide service slide away in 2007 and just full time with R&T. And then it led into doing more TV, more video. But I always kind of missed guiding. I enjoyed taking folks hunting. Yeah. And then that kind of led to helping out at a couple of different clubs, or folks would ask me to go with them on more private invite kind of deals. So that's leading into this year, helping out with Drake's camp, being a kind of the manager there of sorts. I kind of look forward to that. Meeting new folks, taking folks hunting. I like that.
Absolutely. What would be one of the most memorable guided trips that you've done? Like something that just stuck out to you where you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. I'm just putting you on the spot.
You are. I mean, there's so many. The hard part there is to pick just one. I know different people that in the industry, or people that guided and hunted for a long time before we had cell phones, that took phenomenal pictures.
Oh, yeah.
They took a lot of pictures. And I wish I had all those pictures back. I got them up here, but I can't show them to you. But I can remember a couple big hunts that were just cool. We was hunting some state, back when we could hunt on state ground. And
when did that change? That was like early 2000s?
Yeah, I want to say Game and Fish stopped commercial guiding on WMAs 04, 05, somewhere in there. Yeah. Or it might have been 07 even, when you could have had a permit, but I don't remember the exact year. Yeah. But we was in this particular time would have been in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. Again, it's hard to think back, man. We started in 94, so that's been a minute already. So the last 3 days of duck season on state ground, you could hunt all day on a WMA. A buddy of mine and I took a group of folks to a WMA in the afternoon thinking ducks, and we had been doing okay up there in the mornings. And we got one of them bunches in that literally took them 20 minutes to fill up the woods.
That's awesome.
You just don't forget that, and I've got several big bunches in, hence Mondo wads, I call them. It's the Mondo duck call. That just always stands out to me. Just, I can still remember the tree I'm standing on and see the first one spin around a big old willow tree. It still had a few leaves on it in late January, and it just started pouring in, and just kept coming and coming and coming. And I thought, my gosh, I don't know how many ducks it was. Yeah. It was just a pile. That stands out. Some of the other ones that are funny, I remember one of the private places we hunted was an old Deadening, and had old just square bow, flat bottom express boat with a Go Devil on it. Had the middle seat. And it was just a couple guys, and we were coming out and had a good hunt, and I don't think we just beat them up. We had a good hunt. It's not always about how many. And there was some green wing teal and some mallards, and just mixed bag, Arkansas deadening hunt. And the old boy looked at me and he's pointed at that green wing teal Drake. He said, "Hey Jimbo, that little duck with the green stripe on his head, is that a baby mallard?"
Yes, it is a baby mallard.
And at that time I dipped, and I think I remember I just kind of spit and said, "Be whatever you want it to be, partner."
Yeah, be whatever you want it to be. That's hilarious.
I had another one that's always pretty funny too. So this same old creek I hunted, we were hunting one morning, and course of a morning, you never know what you're going to get. Some days are better than others, and people ask questions and want to learn, and I always appreciate that because you get to meet new people. That's the fun part of guiding. And old boy, just a serious heart attack, and I think he was from the Carolinas or something. And now we're in East Central Arkansas, not far off White River Bottoms, and what is that in a straight line? Maybe 250, 300 miles to the coast, thereabouts. Just trying to guess. Oh boy, serious heart attack. I said, "Jimbo, how bad does the tide affect this place?" I said, "Man, it ain't a problem."
Tide is not going to be a problem today, I guarantee.
We're not going to have an issue with the tide leaving us here.
That's pretty funny.
So that kind of stuff kind of sticks out to you. And then, man, there's people that I stay in touch with that I still go hunting with maybe every year that hunted with us back in the 90s, lifetime friends. So that's the cool thing about doing that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember when I started with DU, I was in the PR side, and so we were doing the media relations thing. We did a media camp where we invited, 4 or 6 outdoor riders, and we hunted with you guys one day, and we were in the timber, and I don't remember where, and so it was not my first time hunting the timber, but my first time hunting the timber successfully.
Was this the day that Jimbo Robinson face planted in the...
That wasn't Jim Bo Robinson. That was my intern, a guy by the name of Chris Henderson.
Okay.
And so, but he was so fired. It's so funny you remember that. He was so fired up. Like he was from here. He knew you guys. He was like a Rich and Tone fan. Like he was, and so he gets there and he was all nervous and he was like even asking me like, "Hey, I'm not going to say anything to him, okay?" And I'm like, "They're just." People, man. And you had him like standing back behind. I think he walked back to like go somewhere to get like
maybe get something out of the boat or something.
Like that. And he did. He face planted in the water about shin deep water. And
when you mentioned that hunt, it started clicking what it was.
Yeah, you guys were filming that day, and I forget who it was from War Eagle. Matt or somebody. I can't remember.
Was it maybe Mike Ward?
No, it wasn't Mike Ward. It was a younger guy. He was from somewhere in Louisiana.
Oh,
Scott.
Yeah, Scott. What the heck is his last name?
Yeah, I remember hunting with him, and you guys were all calling, and that I was like, oh my gosh, like I was blown away by the calling. I'm from Indiana. We're not necessarily known for our calling, especially in timber,
right?
And so, but I remember you put a group in, and I bet there was. I mean, I'll never forget that. I bet it was probably 25 or 30. And you didn't have your gun in your hand. You guys were filming. And I'm standing there and I'm trying to talk this media member who I won't mention their name. And I'm like, hey, he's gonna when he calls the shot, this guy never hunted timber either. I'm like, when he calls it, he was an older gentleman. I was like, when he calls a shot, you step up, pick a bird out, greenhead, pull the trigger. Because he was more of an upland guy and he was kind of worried about shooting through the trees and whatnot. So I'm trying to talk him through this. And I remember I'm watching you and you didn't even have your gun in your hand. And then Scott was on my left, and then this media guy was right here on my right. And birds, and I'm kind of looking off the edge of the tree, and the birds just dumped, just dropping right in. And right when they did, they got about 10 feet off the water. And I'm watching you waiting for you to grab your gun or something, and you never did. You never touched your gun. You just took like 2 steps in the water, and you said, "Pick you out a greenhead." and then Scott next to me turned. I'll kind of glance at him, and he's bam, bam. He shoots 2 off this side. I stand up, shoot, and I look at the media member that's standing next to me, and I'm like, "Hey, did you get one?" And he's like, "I never saw him." And I'm like, "Oh my God." He was so worried about looking up.
He was hid.
He was hid. Yeah, he was hiding, and he's like, "I never saw him." And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to recreate that ever again. Like, that was pretty awesome. So you missed it.
Well, he got the point about keeping his head buried up in the tree anyway. Most folks don't understand that.
But I'll never forget. That was probably the best one of my best timber hunts experience, and one of my first too. I mean, I walked into some Bide View and Biomeda and stuff by myself when I first moved here because I didn't have anywhere to hunt. Practically that whole time I was half lost and didn't shoot any ducks. But
I stay that way.
Yeah, but it was my timber experience. But with that, I'll never forget that. It just dawned on me. But it's funny that you remembered that the guy who was the intern took a splash.
I remember the splash. So those are I don't remember that bunch of ducks.
Yeah.
But I remember that guy falling down. And
first.
We beat him up pretty bad.
Oh yeah, he was pretty embarrassed, but also I think it kind of let him know that it
happens.
It happens, and so I know he was standing there just cold. I'm like, man, if we need to go back to the boat, let me know. No, yeah. I'm fine. And he went hands down, so he's up to his elbows.
Yeah, he wasn't like he just really filled his waders up.
Yeah, he wasn't completely soaked, but his arms were drenched.
Oh, I'm sure he was cold.
Yeah,
but it wasn't. I don't remember it being just a terrible cold.
No,
day.
It wasn't like icy cold.
We did so on the serious side of that. Another guiding story that come to me talking about people falling in. We was hunting White River bottoms and had a group of folks, and a fella had fell in, and I was kind of watching him, and he was like, "No, I'm okay. And we was in deep water, and one of the guys in the group was a doctor.
Yeah,
and he cool dude. He eased up to me and he said, "Man, I've known this fella for a long time. He early stages of hypothermia," and he started telling me signs to look for, and I thought that was interesting. He said, he needs to go in. He said, we were shooting ducks, He said, "We're good here. Trust me, I'll be all right." He said, "If you would, take him to the truck."
Yeah.
Yes, sir. And he told me his speech was starting to slur a little bit. He said, "Man, he ain't been drinking, and he wasn't moving right." He said that he needs to go get warm.
Yeah.
So I remember that like it was yesterday. So I eased him in the boat. He said, No. I said, "No, you need to go in." His doctor buddy said, "No, you go get in the truck, get warm. We're going to hunt a couple of hours and we'll be."
Yeah.
So we did. So that's the other side of getting wet. It's all fun and games, when you're in shallow water. But when you're in them river bottoms and it's current and cold, and that's a different deal. And at the risk of being Debbie Downer here on a fun conversation, pay attention to that as you're spending time in the woods this year. Whether you're hunting flooded woods or a pothole or wherever you're at, or you're hunting out of a boat blind, just be real careful.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long even in 40-degree weather, if you get soaking wet, don't necessarily try to be the tough guy. You know, get yourself warm, get out of them clothes and get warm, or wear good stuff that'll keep you warm even when it gets wet.
Absolutely. And you can always hunt tomorrow.
That's right.
You know, take that into account when you're, but, that's one thing that's a good reminder. People don't necessarily even think about the dangers of waterfowl hunting all across the board. And I'm sure you've probably had some, moments like that. You hunt out of a boat a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Adding a boat adds certain levels of danger that,
yes.
I mean, I grew up hunting the rivers, in Indiana that, it was a pretty quick flowing river, and we hunted out of a fairly shoddy boat. I'm 17 years old thinking that I'm invincible.
Man. Yeah.
Looking back, we're dodging oak trees or rolling down the river sometimes, ice flows. And we're like, oh, the ducks are there. And I'm like, looking back on it, like,
this wasn't really smart.
This was not a good idea.
Yeah, that you start getting in the boat and getting on water, it's a different deal. I tell folks, and one of these deals I need to practice what I preach. But I'm bad. A lot of times I go to bottoms in the morning by myself and get in a boat way before daylight and run up the river by myself.
Yep. And
you shouldn't do that. Mm-hmm. That's really shouldn't. And if we got a group of folks hunting, if we're hunting in the bottoms every day or the woods, if it's 4 people, take 2 boats.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. 2 guys in each boat. If you have somebody break down, something happens, you got another boat to get out of there. And I used to not be that way, but I'm pretty adamant about it now. It makes a difference.
Yeah. No, and, just paying attention to those things, being cognizant of the dangers is like the first step, I think. Most people just don't think about it.
And here's another one. I spend all this time in the water in the wintertime. I can't swim a lick.
No, jeez. I didn't know you couldn't swim. So life jackets are necessity.
Well, they are. And I'm another one. I've been in boats so long, I don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But a buddy of mine from North Louisiana a couple of years ago, he lives and hunts near the Washita River bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
And we were turkey hunting. And we'd had a great turkey hunt that morning. He wanted to show me around. The river's out. We was going to go for a boat ride. And we put the boat in, whatnot, and we was going to get in the boat and go. And we put in the woods in the ditch. And he's a big old fella, and he's Michael Thomas. He's sitting there. He's holding a life jacket out like that. I said, man, I'll be all right. I don't need that. He never said a word. He just kept looking down. Yeah. And he just kept holding that life jacket up. I was going to put that life jacket on or we wasn't going anywhere. So I put it on. Actually, I liked it. My wife got me one like it for a Christmas present. Now I put one on all the time. That being said, he tells a story. Family grew up commercial fishing on the Washita River, and he lost some family members because they didn't wear a life jacket. So here's my point to you. I try to be cognizant of that now. I don't always do it. Now, private woods, I don't. Yeah. I should wear one there, but I don't. Because, man, I go in the summertime, I'm probably done, let alone waders, coats, clothes. Mm-hmm. Old timers in White River bottoms, they wouldn't put waders on till they got to where they was getting out of the boat.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard those stories where, no duck calls, anything like that, because they didn't want the lanyards to catch on limbs, different things like that.
Well, when some of them thick lanyards we all use today, you catch one of them on a limb, you're coming out of the boat.
Yeah, you're getting,
or something's coming off.
Yeah, that's right. That can be very dangerous. All things that, keep in mind, but
we're going down a bad road.
We are. I was going to say, I think this is a good point right here before we get into a deeper conversation. We're just going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. What I really wanted to get into now, you don't want to get into super specific Drake products, but just overall, kind of provide everyone with just like an update on Drake Waterfowl as at 50,000 feet.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the high level deal there, a lot of people may not realize that there's new ownership now at Drake, and it's kind of it's fun to be a part of that movement, as it moves forward and trying to maybe not redefine it, but realign it. Yeah. Maybe a little bit. And with that, over the next few years, you'll see differences, see things changing. I'm about simple. I'm not about all bunch of this and that. And over time, you'll see some of that changes coming on as we move forward. Be some cool stuff. There's a few new things this year. Be some really cool stuff. Fall 23, fall 24. And the thing I've learned coming from the duck call industry, and although I've been around apparel, we use it all the time. So other folks I've worked with, you got an understanding of things and design, and there's different ways to do things. I tell this story. It's kind of a side note, and I'll come back to it. Growing up, my mother come from the era, but, she sewed a lot. She used to make shirts, pants, stuff for all of us, and she loved to sew, and she used to always want to teach me about things. And she'd talk about different ways to do stuff for shoulders and backs and whatnot. And I always think back now, I got a job in an apparel company. Mama would really, she'd be right in the big middle of it now. But that being said, the thing I've learned or got to see firsthand here is from the time you come up with an idea to the time you prototype it, and then you test it, and then you get it to manufacturing, it takes a minute. So there's a lot of people out here asking, man, what's Jimbo, what you got, what you doing? And while I'm not full-time with the product development guys, we do talk a lot about ideas and whatnot, but it takes time. You won't see a lot this year. You'll see some changes next year. It'll be subtle, but it's really fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that, Rich and Tone, while it is completely nationwide, Drake is almost like more of a global approach. You're worldwide. Yeah, moving parts,
lots more moving parts. I'm not going to say bigger, but different playing field. Yeah, and it's interesting and fun to be a part of, and probably because it is new. I'm learning different things. Yeah, that in the duck call business, we wanted to build a new duck call. Well, we'd work on a tone board, work on a board, do this, try that, and you go over here and sit at a workbench and do something. Well, in the apparel side of things, it takes a minute to get that all figured out. So we've got a really good team doing that. Justin Carpenter, Stephen Bunch, just really doing good stuff with products and what we got coming. You'll see some improvements in the casual side, some really cool shirts and stuff coming in the future. And then something I'm really fond of is I like the old McAllister stuff. I like the old wax cotton look and feel. It just got a cool look. And if I'm busting the thicket in the river bottoms and you're running through something, that's the kind of stuff you want on to keep from getting scratched up and tore up. So, and if you're a bird hunter, like to upland hunt, we got some cool stuff in that direction also. So it's fun to be a part of all that.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's just exciting. You're thinking, not only with just like the Drake waterfowling line, you've got McAllister. And then you've got the turkey gear that you can
old Tom side.
Yeah, old Tom. Then you got the deer hunting,
Drake non-typical, Drake performance fishing, all that kind of stuff.
And then the casual stuff,
and that's just, these are if it's hot weather shirt, it's good stuff. We'll keep you cool, we'll keep you warm, we'll keep you dry.
There you go. Is that the new tagline? We'll keep you cool.
No, I just come up with that.
Write it down.
I may write
it down. No, that's great. Anything else on the Drake side that we need to know? I've got a couple more questions for you. But
there's some hard good changes too. Yep. Jamie Spence on the hard good side. We got some, pit tops, boat blind stuff. And there's, like everything, you kind of got to always need tweaking, and you always another set of eyeballs kind of sometimes helps. So for me, with being development, that covers a lot more. It's not just product development. It's content development, creative assets, and development is a big word, covers a lot of things.
Yeah, that's right. And I do want to throw a little tip of the hat out there to Jamie for working with me on the Ultimate Duck Boat project. We reached out, I think, to you, and might have been even before you came on board, asking about the new boat blind. And they immediately sent one. We got it. We got the boat here. We had to do so many different things to the boat. We took it out of the box. I'm going to mount this boat blind. And I looked at it and I immediately called you. I'm like, hey, man,
this ain't gonna work.
Yeah, this is not going to. So when we mounted the electronics, we had to angle, the electronics were basically right in the middle of where that frame for the boat blind was supposed to go. So you put me in touch with Jamie. Jamie came down from Dyersburg. I just gave him the boat. It was a one-day turnaround, and he had to bend that metal around to completely customize that thing. It was pretty awesome. So I just wanted to, awesome. Thanks. Shout out to him for doing that and just making that project, really taking control of that project. And I just handed the boat to him, and he did it, brought it right back. It was fantastic.
And it looked good, too. I know you sent me the pictures of the mods he made. That was pretty cool. He does a good job of that stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. So, as far as hard goods go, Drake also just has, like you mentioned, I mean, it just runs the full gamut of all, not just apparel. It's also blind bags and accessories.
Blind
and
bags,
you got everything.
decoy bags, Texas rigs, portable blinds, boat blinds, dog stands, stools, chairs. We got it all. What was the old hardware store? From soup to nuts.
From soup to nuts, you got it all.
We pretty much got it all.
That's awesome.
And it's fun to have all that, but it's at the same time you got to keep track of it all.
Absolutely.
And I'm trying to understand all of it at the same time, and it's a pretty big learning curve.
Yeah, you probably have to walk around with a complete booklet of all products.
Oh yeah,
just to remember, because you can't remember.
No, I sit and study them, and then the folks who've been there for a while, when you start talking about products, they deal in model numbers.
Oh yeah.
So that Jedi mind messes me up right there. So okay, that's what that is. You spend a lot of time on Google.
I did that with the new Guns and Gear for July August issue too. Justin had sent tons of new gear that was coming out. Well, it wasn't on the website. So it wasn't really anywhere that you could reference it. And then he had sent me here's a breakdown of all the description of the products. These are new. They'll be out later this summer. And they're labeled like I'm used to, 3-in-1 jacket or something. You know what I mean? Something like that. It's like DW 4321.4. I'm like, what is this? So I'm in my office, comparing the tag that's on the shirt, trying to look at a model number to match it up with this Word document.
That's got to be a headache.
Oh gosh. I was just like, oh geez. But I do. So I hear you on the model number.
So what we need to do this year when they get done, there's a big panic going on in the office right now with the Sure Enough product development folks. John Woodard and the others are the fall workbooks for the fall sales meeting. We need to make sure we get you those workbooks. That will make that a lot easier. Trust me.
Yes. I need one of those.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes, you do. And appreciate all that you do for us.
Yep. Not a problem. I appreciate you guys getting it to us, and just having that product on hand makes it so much easier. We can get it to John Hoffman, our photo editor. He's shooting photos. It's just a seamless process as long as we have all that stuff in hand. So it's awesome. One thing I wanted to mention, you're still doing your Instagram Live thing, right?
I do.
I wanted to give you a plug on that.
Oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah, that's something. That's the biggest plug it's probably ever gotten is just right there because it's purely organic. Monday nights, Instagram Live. My buddy Jake Latondras and I started it during the heart of the pandemic. Let's just get together and we'd talk once a week. So, hey, let's do a Instagram Live thing. We'll just have a drink, talk, and just carry on, let people kind of have an escape there. And kept it going. So we started off as late night with Jake and Jimbo, and he lives in Mountain Time Zone. So time he got his kids to bed, it's 8 o'clock his time, 9 o'clock our time. So that got to be a little late, but Jake's still apart, son. But anyway, the 8 o'clock time frame seems to work good. I try to get it most every Monday night. I may miss one on occasion, but that deal never has huge numbers. Yeah. But if I miss a week or if I go somewhere like at an event or something, I'm amazed at the number of people that come up and say, "Hey, man, I enjoy listening to your live deal on Instagram," and I may have an idea of what I'm going to say when I start off, or I may be bumping a DU event or, just something to start off. But then people ask questions and then it just kind of builds from there and you'll start talking about one thing. And I need to get me a moderator because then you scroll up and my daughter will do it every now and again. But you scroll up, you see me looking up there. Okay, so and so asked this, and I try to mention everybody's name if I can. Sometimes they come so fast you can't keep up. Yeah. But it is kind of a fun thing to do. Try to do it for an hour. If it runs a little over, it runs a little over. But thanks for asking. It's fun. Every now and then I'll have a guest. I'll have a guest on. It won't matter, but Matt Drury from Drury Outdoors is going to be a guest for me this Monday night.
Cool.
So he'll be fun. I've known his dad and uncle forever. I've known him some. We've had some good conversations, and it'll be I think what I want to talk to him about is kind of like this conversation, him growing up in the industry. I mean, he grew up in it, and the things that they've done is pretty cool. All the podcast and video and TV stuff that we connect on. It'll be a fun conversation, even though he's more of a deer hunter than a duck hunter, but it'll still be fun.
Oh, no, that'll be interesting for sure. And that's a good transition into my next, you were going to wrap this up here in a little bit, but my next question for you, you mentioned growing up in the industry and doing this. And before we came on air, I mentioned to you to kind of talk about filming. Now everyone's a content creator. And we kind of laugh at that to an extent, but then at the same time, everyone is a content creator. We have to take that into account.
You bet.
But like, what has changed, over the years? I mean, you, like you said, you're doing RNTV for 18 years, been involved in that. You're involved not only in just the filming and stuff, but also like the post-production side, things like that. How has that changed over the years? And then we'll kind of dive down that road a little bit.
Yeah, that's a fun question. And to your point, everybody is a content creator of sorts in the social media world, and so much has changed. The equipment you use to gather that content has changed. That iPhone there in 4K probably shoots better than the first high-end video camera I was ever handed to me. I was shooting a turkey hunt one time, and they give me, I forget the model number, but Chris may be familiar with the Ikegami cameras. Very high-end Beta SP, had a big Canon 20-power lens with a doubler on it, just a $150,000 piece of equipment.
Yeah.
I would dare say that iPhone 13 Pro would shoot, well, I know it would. It'd shoot better footage than that would. So that's been a huge change. And with the proliferation of social media and everybody wanting to be a part of that, especially in the outdoor space.
Yep.
Some better than others. Some with better attitude than others, I'll say. You can take that phone and just a little bit of effort, you can put pretty good content out there. So that's, I think, been a huge change. Relatively easy to edit. You can to go about it. You can be more polished or less polished. Whether how much production quality and effort you want to put in there. I think that's huge. I would ask that people use it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
There's probably some folks are not, but it's interesting that, and now there's all these people, making a living producing video content and still photography content specifically for social media.
Yep.
And that's a big change coming from the linear TV world where we was talking earlier, to where the hunts you do now will air next quarter 3 or 4, or maybe you slide one into Q1 or 2, but that's how it's separated. Quarter 1 and 2 TV, quarter 3 and 4 TV. Well, now, because of everything moves so fast, like the podcast, whatever, you can go shoot something on your phone and get it up right away. So it's more of a real-time type content. And in today's world, that's a good thing in a lot of ways. I think it gives people an opportunity to live life through their phone. And that's kind of one of the things when I got into video that I wanted to be able to do. Like I said, I grew up in a hunting family. But I got to see a lot of cool stuff, or realized that it was getting to see cool stuff. So I said, man, how can I show people what I get to see? And then I got the opportunity to mess around with the camera some, be a part of a production, do as a Primos Pro Staff guy. So that was kind of my early days into that. But I would say just learn to tell a story. I've worked with a couple of young guys that shoot really good stuff, take really good pictures, and they helped us out on a TV show last year. But they were so used to shooting short stuff for like reels and whatnot. When it come for long form, it was hard to edit because they didn't roll through it, didn't let it breathe. So I would caution anybody who's shooting today for even if you're shooting for Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or whatever it is, think your shots through. You look at the people that's really successful there, it's either very raw or it's very polished. It seems like there doesn't seem to be
There's not a whole lot of middle ground.
No, and I think the raw is just as good as the very polished. To be honest with you, so there's a lot of opportunity. I wonder where it's going to go. Where it's going to go next. Because the other thing too, what used to be shooting, big shoulder mount cameras. Now DSLR shoots video and stills, and some of the cinematic stuff nowadays is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
Some of the stuff you see people shoot. Again, going back to that phone, you flip a couple buttons on it, and if you can get steady, you shoot really good stuff. So that and GoPros, when the GoPros first come out, I hated them.
Yeah, it was just like a craze, though. Everyone had one.
Everybody had one. I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. But nowadays, them things are pretty dang good.
Yeah, and
it's handy. You can flip it on, you can talk to it, it's just different.
Yeah,
but in a good way, I think.
I remember everyone was trying to shoot these GoPro videos of duck hunts, and it was always like you could get the guy shooting, and I did it too. You could get a shot or maybe like a close up of a decoy, but those GoPros do not film birds at all.
No,
like you get people are like, look at this duck hunt. I'm like, you can't even see the duck.
Yeah, what is that out there? Now you can adjust, you can adjust it.
Absolutely.
I remember one of our guys stuck one out in the decoy spread and actually got a shot of a Canada lightning past it. And everybody's like, oh, wow. Whoa. And I'm like, well, so? Well, no, look how cool. No, it's only cool because the goose flew past the camera.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a lot cooler if you had a guy holding on to one that was super tight, sharp focus, and followed him to the water.
Yeah.
That's cool videography. Mm-hmm. Just because you stick a GoPro in the ground out there and a bird flies past it, that's not videography.
Yeah. You got lucky.
Exactly. You got lucky. And, man, I remember we was at a lodge one night, and buddy of mine and I, we went round and round about that forever. They still talk about that argument. But that's kind of my point to it. There is still room for skill.
Yeah.
And I'm not behind the camera as much as I used to be at all. But I used to like to run a camera some.
Yeah.
It's not, even though these things take good stuff, you still got to point them right. You still got to think about how you compose the shot and whatnot. I still get used to the vertical. Yeah. So one of my favorite duck hunt all last duck season, took my daughter and all her college buddies on a hunt with Case and Short.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, actually, I talked to Case about that.
And it was a blast, man. But they're all walking around with their phone. And that drives me crazy because I think, you
want that horizontal shot.
I want that horizontal shot. And like, no, Daddy, it don't work like that.
I know.
And okay.
We actually had a meeting just like 2 days ago, and our social media specialist and she's just like, everything vertical, please. Like everything. And we're like, what? Like, she's like, everything. Like, it's so our video guys who are shooting, a YouTube channel or, things, even pulling like, do you film stuff and TV show. We have TV show footage they use. And she's like, I need it vertical. And they're like, what?
Yeah, it just don't make sense to us. Our brain is not wired that way. And I think on some of the platforms you can shoot horizontal landscape, but I get the vertical side works for some people, but it's just
we have to tell her, like, you're gonna have to deal with this horizontal. Like,
good for you.
You're gonna have to deal with this. Make it work. She's like, all right, but I need vertical. So that's funny you mentioned that because we just had that conversation.
And that's all the differences nowadays, and the other one too. It's fun talking to some of the younger folks in working in production. I remember, to me, it doesn't seem like it was that long ago when we switched from tape to SD cards to or some sort of a card type.
Yeah.
Media. And I said, boy, I don't know about that deal. At least that tape, I can put that tape up and we got it. And now it is so much easier. When you digitize video shot on tape, it digitized at the same time it shot in. It was 1-to-1. So if you finish duck season with 400, 500, 600 hours of footage, that's 400, 500, 600 hours of digitizing.
Yeah.
So you think about it now, you go shoot something, you pull the card out, plug it in your computer and couple buttons and slide it over here and little bar goes bzzz, and there it is.
It's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
That's
funny because we just, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, we were looking for like old video, something, old hunting footage. And I reached out to the guys at Mossy Oak and I was like, hey, do you guys got anything that we could maybe use for this? And they sent over the entire catalog of those old Whistling Wings videos. I mean, from the 80s. I think they went back as far, I want to say almost the 70s of this video. And but like you mentioned, it takes 2 seconds. Imagine asking that same question in like 1991. Oh, you'd get a crate of tapes. And now they're just like, hey, here's a Dropbox link. We're good.
Even as, it really hadn't been that long because RNTV started in 2006 and up until probably 2015, 2017 right there, we were still shooting on tape. So it really hadn't been that long ago that the change has been made. And you mentioned Mossy Oaks. I was down there this summer talking to Toxie and Bill and Daniel and everybody, and they kind of give me a tour of the tape room and just they've done a great job cataloging all their tapes.
Yeah.
And it's fun to walk through there and look, going back to the old 3/4 inch stuff, to Beta SP, the different digital formats and how it's changed over time to now it's just, we got stacks of hard drives everywhere.
Yeah. No, it's funny. Clay, our manager of video productions here, he said somebody called him last week and was like, hey, I need a CD of that video. We don't even have a CD. We can't even burn a CD. Like, all that's gone. Like, why do you need this? Here's a link to YouTube if you want to watch it. So the things have changed drastically.
That is another huge change. I'm glad you brought that up. So new laptop there. My last new Mac laptop had a slot in it for a DVD player.
Oh, yeah. No.
Not happening.
Mm-mm.
So it's all that's even gone. And I remember when DVDs and Blu-ray was like state of the art stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's a stick a media card in it.
Yeah. Now you can go find those DVD players at like the Goodwill for like $8.
Yeah. What good are they?
Yeah. I mean, I don't even own one anymore.
And look, and cameras that there's some old cameras that are broke or tore up or whatnot. A couple of them still shoot pretty good stuff at R&T. Was probably $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 camera body and lens.
Yeah.
It's a boat anchor.
Yeah, boat anchor.
Yep. Really,
yeah.
Nobody's shooting on that stuff.
Yep. And that's interesting. The way you all these changes you've seen, been a part of. But one thing that you pointed out just kind of stuck out to me as far as just kind of a tip for people who are creating their own content as far as waterfowl hunting. You still got to tell a story.
Tell a story.
Yeah. And I think that's a really important thing. Even now, you see some of these TikTok videos that are super popular. There's storytelling.
There's a story in that. Yeah.
And those are the most, but it's not just some random one-offs. Like there's a whole story. If you put multiple videos together, there's a story.
There's a story there. And there's some guys and gals doing a really good job with that.
Absolutely.
And some of it doesn't have to be very long. That's what's interesting to me, is I still like to watch a whole hunt. So thinking about linear TV, think of a 30-minute TV shows, 22 minutes content, and then commercials, ins and outs, and all that kind of stuff there. Well, in the past, if say we went on a good hunt and there was 4 or 5 of us and we shot 4 or 5 limits of mallards, had some good dog work, some calling, some good camaraderie, whatnot. That was the show, and that maybe that was a 3, 4, 5 hour hunt condensed into that 22 minutes and 30 seconds. Well, the past couple of years, Stahl and I were talking, along with our post-production folks, man, you go on a 3-day hunt and burn them every day, that used to would last us a while. Now that's what it takes to make one show. It has to move that much faster. And you could take a really cool clip. I was talking, a guy was showing me a turkey clip the other day that he had a lot of success with this style of footage on Instagram Reels. It was maybe 45 seconds to a minute. Yeah. But it was very high quality, 45 seconds to a minute. And he said, man, look at the numbers I'm getting off of that. So it's changing. Yeah. But I think people want a little bit of all of it. Yeah. I do. I don't think it's just any one demographic likes that part. I think people still like to watch the story unfold. And what did it take to get there? How did they do that? I don't think it has to be heavy in tips and educational stuff, but just a little bit goes a long way, and some of that can be used in so many different ways. And I think it's up to us on this side of the table to stay viable, figure out how to tell those stories, figure out how to help pass good tips and education off to folks that may not have some mentor to teach them. How can we teach them that? Yeah. And I think some of the guys that don't, they learn what they learn off outdoor TV or Instagram or Facebook. There's a link missing there. It don't happen that fast in real life. That's a big thing.
Yeah, I think that's one thing for everyone to realize is the Instagram, TikTok phenomena. You're not going to shoot greenheads every single day.
No,
because if you watch it on Instagram, people are pounding birds every day, and it's like, well. It doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work.
Like you said, that's the link to the story that they're not telling.
Right.
That's interesting.
But had some folks tell me once at a seminar I did, a guy, we got to talking about this same conversation. The same question came up. And, I said, we like to be real. Some days you have bad days. You don't get them every day. And one guy told me, this makes sense too. You got to factor this in and said, we're not sitting there for 30 minutes watching you not shoot nothing.
That's right.
Okay, there's something to that. But there is more to it. Like we did a story several years ago about Aldo Leopold and the house he's born in and whatnot. That got a lot of play. Yeah. John does a bunch of stuff with RNTV about old duck calls and stuff. That gets a lot of play too. So, some folks do like it, some folks don't. Here's one I get a lot. Man, if I watch another TV show of a flooded timbered duck hunt in Stuttgart, I'm going to throw up. And then you hear one of your buddies at home, if I watch another Canada goose hunt in a barley field in Canada, I'm going to throw up.
Yeah.
It's, man, hey, look here, we're all in this together, fellas.
That's the same thing that I get where I get the calls from Louisiana where you're like, you guys are putting, DU puts all the money in the ducks up north. And then I get calls from my buddies in northern Indiana. DU puts all the money in the south. It's like, man, who's right here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We try to get everywhere. And you don't just know we're all in this together.
Yep.
You know,
that's right.
It's fun. I wouldn't, looking back at the opportunities that I've had doing it, man, it's been great.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I think, hey, this has been great. We ran a little bit long, but I think it's, well worth it. But you got anything else from Drake Waterfowl you want to mention?
Man, no, just the fact that there's, keep watching, be patient. It takes a while for stuff that's being changed. It takes some of that stuff to kind of move through the system, and if you got any questions or any issues, whatnot, run us down. We'll get an answer for you.
Awesome. I appreciate it, Jim. This has been fantastic, and we'll probably have you back on here in the near future.
Man, I love coming out. Thank you, bud.
Awesome. I'd like to thank Jim Ronquest with Drake Waterfowl for joining us today and talking about all different, anything from his guiding days to filming, everything. It's just been a great conversation. I'd like to thank our producer, Chris Isaac, for putting the show together and getting it out to you. And I'd like to thank you, the listener, for joining us on the DU podcast and supporting wetlands conservation.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the DU Podcast. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and visit www.ducks.org/DU Podcast for resources based on today's topics, as well as access to more episodes. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of Ducks Unlimited. Until next time, stay tuned to the Ducks. Stay tuned to the Ducks.